Okay, let's start with a visual. I'm going to close your eyes for a second. Imagine you are standing in the middle of San Francisco. It is pouring rain.
And not just a light drizzle.
No, not at all. I mean, that heavy, soaking, relentless rain that feels like it's trying to wash the city away. The wind is just cutting right through your jacket, which is, way too thin for this kind of weather.
It's the kind of cold that gets into your bones and just stays there. A damp, deep cold.
Exactly. And now look down at your feet. Your shoes are old. They're falling apart, really. And you can feel that freezing water seeping into your socks with every single step.
It's a miserable feeling.
It's awful. And here is the kicker. You reach into your pocket and your hand closes around a single crumpled $20 bill. That is it. That is your entire net worth in this moment.
That is a terrifying place to be. It triggers that primal survival instinct where your vision just tunnels and all you can possibly think about is what happens tomorrow.
Right.
And for the protagonist of the story we're unpacking today, Alina, it's not just about her own survival. She has a sick mother at home who is completely depending on her. So the stakes are effectively life or death right from the opening paragraph.
Right. And usually when a story kicks off like this, a desperate woman, a storm, a looming mansion on a hill, you kind of expect a very specific genre.
You're thinking gothic horror, maybe?
Exactly. Is the house haunted? Or maybe it's a classic Cinderella romance where the handsome prince is about to save the pauper. And to be fair, we do get flavors of that.
We do.
But what happens next isn't just about falling in love. It morphs into this full-blown corporate thriller. We're talking forged signatures, warehouse stakeouts, and a literal fight for survival.
That genre bending is what makes this source material so compelling. We're looking at a narrative titled The Job That Changed Everything. And on the surface, it feels like a romance. But if you look just a little closer, it's a story that blends these soft emotional beats of healing and empathy with the hard-edged tension of corporate espionage.
It's like Jane Eyre meets Succession.
That's a great comparison.
Yeah.
It really is. You have the brooding, isolated, wealthy man and the corporate shark circle.
I love that. So today, we're going to unpack how a simple help wanted sign on a gate leads to this life-saving mission. We're going to talk about the dynamics of power, how grief can leave even the most powerful people incredibly vulnerable, and all the plot twists that turn a housemaid into a detective.
And we really need to dig into the psychology here, too, because at its core, this is a story about two people who are essentially sleeping through life. One because of crushing poverty, the other because of this deep, unresolved trauma and how they literally have to wake each other up to survive what's coming.
So let's set the stage properly. Our main character is Lena. As we said, she's walking in the rain, she's cold, she is desperate. And in this moment, she actually whispers a prayer. She says, "Please, God, just give me one job today."
And almost immediately she sees it, a big iron gate, and there's a simple wooden board attached to it.
And the board says, "Help wanted made immediate." Now let's pause on that word, immediate.
Yes. In the world of high-end domestic staffing, that is a massive red flag. Wealthy households usually have these long vetting processes, agencies, background checks that take weeks. You don't just, slap a sign on the gate like you're looking for someone to mow the lawn. Putting up a sign that screams immediate implies chaos inside. It implies a household that has stopped functioning properly.
It just reeks of desperation on both sides of the gate, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. Lena's desperation meets the household's desperation.
So she walks in, and the description of the mansion is really telling. She describes it as silent, almost like it was sleeping. It's not peaceful. It's dead. It's unnerving.
It's the architectural manifestation of depression. No music, no laughter, no sounds of life, just this heavy, oppressive stillness. And then she meets the employer, Ethan Gray.
And he opens the door himself, which again, as you said, is unusual for a guy with this level of wealth. Where's the butler? Where is the rest of the staff?
Exactly. The whole system is broken down. He looks like he hasn't slept in a week. Dark circles under his eyes. His clothes are a mess.
This is our introduction to the beast figure if we're using that fairy tale archetype. He's tall, tired, has a deep voice. But notice the interaction. It's unbelievably brief.
It's not an interview.
Not even close. He barely looks at her. He just says, "Come tomorrow at 8. No questions. No, let me see your references."
That signals a man who is completely checked out of the administrative details of his life. He just needs a problem solved. He needs the house clean so he can go back to, staring at the wall. He isn't hiring a person. He's hiring a function. He just wants the mess to go away so he can focus on his grief.
So Lena gets the job, just like that. She rushes home to tell her mom, and her mom gives her this piece of advice that basically becomes the thematic anchor of the whole story.
It's beautiful advice.
It is. She says, "Work hard, Lena, and don't lose your kindness."
Which sounds like a platitude, you know? Be kind. We hear it all the time. But in the context of what's coming, kindness becomes a tool. It becomes a weapon, in a way. It's her superpower.
Lena promises she won't change. But when she starts working there, it's like working in a mausoleum. You called it the architecture of depression, and that is spot on.
Or grief. The architecture of grief.
Yes, grief. The house is huge, but it feels so empty. Lena mentions she cleans tables and folds clothes, but there's no life.
Yeah.
And Ethan Gray, he's there physically, but mentally, he's gone.
He's a ghost in his own house. She notes that his eyes look lost somewhere far away. This is classic dissociation. He is physically present, but his mind is trying to be anywhere else but in that house, in that reality.
But, and this is so crucial for her later detective work, Lena is observant. She doesn't just clean, she notices. She reads the room, literally and figuratively.
And that's how she finds it. She finds a photo on the floor of the study, face down.
Right, the photo. A picture of a beautiful woman and a small boy, both smiling. This is the Rose from our Beast story. This is the source of all that pain.
And when Ethan catches her holding it, we get our first real spark of conflict. He doesn't ask, he snaps. Did you touch this?
It's such a sharp, aggressive tone.
It's a classic defensive reaction. He feels exposed. That photo represents the life he lost. We later learn is his wife and son who died in an accident. Having a stranger touch it feels like a profound violation of that sacred memory.
And think about it from Lena's perspective. She has $20 to her name. She desperately needs this job. Most people would be terrified. They would apologize profusely and just back away.
But Lena doesn't flinch. She just says, very gently, "It was on the floor, sir. I was putting it back." And instead of yelling more, Ethan just stares at her.
And Lena narrates that she didn't see anger in that moment. She saw this bottomless sadness. She realized right then that he wasn't a monster. He was just broken inside.
And that realization shifts the entire power dynamic. Technically, he's the billionaire boss and she's the maid. But emotionally, in that moment, she is the stable one. She is the adult in the room. Her empathy allows her to see past the scary exterior.
She sees the man, not the beast.
Exactly. And that leads us to the big turning point. The moment the ice actually cracks, it's the broken glass scene.
Such a simple thing.
It's a simple domestic accident, but narratively it carries so much weight. Ethan is in a daze. He drops a water glass, it shatters, and he cuts his finger. There's blood.
Now, in his dissociated state, he probably barely registers the physical pain. He's just staring at it like it's happening to someone else.
But Lena doesn't hesitate. She doesn't run away to get a first aid kit. She engages immediately. She grabs a clean cloth from her cart and presses it to his hand to stop the bleeding.
She just takes charge. And Ethan is completely stunned. He looks at her and he says the most telling thing, "You're not afraid of me."
That line does so much work. It implies that everyone else in his life is afraid of him now. Or maybe he feels he deserves to be feared because he's so closed off and angry. He's built this fortress, and she just breached the perimeter without even asking for permission.
And Lena's response is perfect. She just smiles a little and says, "Why should I be?"
That one question just deconstructs his entire defense mechanism. He's built this wall of silence and intimidation, and she just walks right through it with kindness and a clean cloth.
And he thanks her by name. "Thank you, Lena." It's the first time he acknowledges her as a human being, not just a function of the house.
It's the first crack of light in that dark, silent mansion.
Lena's mom was right. She told her, sometimes maids fix hearts too. And from that moment on, the whole atmosphere in the house begins to thaw, slowly.
Very slowly. He starts asking about her mother's health. He leaves little thank you notes for her on the counter.
Yeah.
It's actually really sweet and tentative.
It is. It's the restoration of basic human connection. He's remembering how to be a person again. And there's another scene that really reinforces this, the soup incident.
Oh, right. He gets sick, like a common cold. But because he's so run down, it hits him hard.
And Lena finds him shivering on the couch and just takes care of him. She makes him soup, and he tells her, "You don't have to do this."
And her reply is so simple and so powerful. Someone has to take care of you. And he admits with this real vulnerability that no one has said that to him in years.
It just highlights how profoundly isolated he is. He's a wealthy, powerful CEO, but he has zero support system, which is the perfect environment for a predator.
Exactly. Because just as things are getting a little better inside the house, the wolves are gathering outside. Enter Mark Benson,
Mark Benson,
Yeah.
the classic corporate snake. The source material describes him so perfectly. He smiles too much, and his voice sounds fake.
We all know that guy. The smile never reaches the eyes.
Don't you just hate that? The guy who is too friendly, it triggers that uncanny valley feeling where your brain is just screaming, danger, danger.
And Lena's instincts are sharp. She spots it immediately. Mark starts showing up late at night, bringing other men in suits with him. They're whispering in the hall, thinking no one can hear them.
They're saying things like, Ethan doesn't know a thing, and he's too lost to notice.
And this is where the genre officially shifts. We are moving out of the quiet romance and squarely into the thriller. Lena isn't just cleaning anymore. She's listening.
This touches on that concept of invisible labor, doesn't it? People tend to ignore service staff. They treat them like furniture.
And that makes the service staff the ultimate spies. Mark Benson doesn't lower his voice because, in his mind, Lena doesn't matter enough to be listening. He sees a maid, not a threat.
It's a huge miscalculation on his part. At the same time, Lena overhears Ethan on the phone. And he sounds different. He's angry. He threatens someone. If you cross me again, I'll end the deal.
So Ethan is waking up. He's starting to emerge from the fog of grief. He's starting to realize something is wrong with his business, that things don't add up.
Right. And Lena finds a file on his desk. It's labeled loan transfer signature pending. And Ethan catches her looking at it.
And in another story, he'd fire her on the spot for snooping.
But he doesn't. He's more worried than angry. He actually warns her. He looks at her and says, "Be careful, Lena. In this world, truth doesn't protect you."
That is such a cynical but also very telling line. Ethan believes that because he's been grieving, he's lost his footing. He knows the sharks are circling. He just doesn't realize how close they are, and that the lead shark is the man he calls his friend.
And Mark Benson is putting the pressure on. He's constantly showing up, telling Ethan, just sign the papers or the whole deal falls apart. But Ethan is hesitating now. He wants to read them first.
Which is the #1 rule of business. Always read the contract. Even if, especially if your supposed best friend hands it to you.
Mark is getting desperate. And Lena, at this point, she's gone full espionage mode. She's not just listening anymore. She's actively looking for clues.
And she finds them in the trash.
Yes. The half-burned paper in the fireplace, great. It has these strange numbers on it and the word account. Most people would just sweep that up and throw it away.
But not Lena. She takes a photo of it with her phone.
This is such a critical moment for the listener to understand Lena's agency. She isn't waiting for a hero to save the day. She's not a damsel in distress. She is gathering evidence.
And she finds more. She sees a document left on a table, a private transfer agreement, signed by Mark. She photographs that too. She is building a case without even fully knowing what the crime is yet.
She just knows something is deeply wrong, and then she overhears Mark say to Ethan's face, almost like a threat, "Truth won't save you this time."
And he's right, at least initially, because then comes the raid.
It's the climax of the first act. The police just swarm the house. It's loud, it's chaotic. They accuse Ethan of fraud, of stealing company money, and they have what they call proof.
They have documents, a whole stack of them, with Ethan's signature on them, authorizing these massive transfers.
Which Lena immediately suspects are forged or copied. But look at Ethan. He doesn't fight. He just crumbles. He looks at Lena and says, "They're taking everything from me." And he just lets them take him away.
So frustrating to read. You want him to scream and fight and call his lawyers.
So why doesn't he? He's a powerful CEO. Why does he just fold like that?
It's the vulnerability of the isolated man we talked about earlier. Mark Benson didn't just plan a financial crime. He planned a psychological one. He exploited Ethan's grief. He knew Ethan wasn't paying attention to the details for months, maybe even years. So he built this meticulous paper trail to frame him.
It's a long con.
It is. And when the police come, Ethan doesn't have the emotional or mental energy to fight. He feels like the world has been against him since his wife and son died. He probably sees this as just another wave in the ocean that's meant to drown him. It's a state of learned helplessness.
That's heartbreaking. So the police take him, and he just looks at Lena with this expression of total defeat. But Lena, she doesn't accept defeat, not for a second.
No, she goes back into that now empty house, pulls out her phone, and realizes she has a weapon.
She has the photos, all this fragmented evidence, and she remembers something else, a text message she saw on Ethan's phone right before the arrest. A message from Mark.
What did it say?
Finish it before she finds out.
Oh, chilling. And who is she?
Exactly. Lena's first thought is she me? But she doesn't let that fear stop her. She decides to follow Mark. Now just think about this transformation. The maid, who was walking in the rain with holes in her shoes a few weeks ago, is now tailing a corporate executive to a secret meeting.
It's a massive step up in courage. It's a huge risk. She follows him to this rundown warehouse near a bridge, and she does what she does best. She listens. She eavesdrops.
And this is where she gets the smoking gun. She hears Mark talking to a conspirator, laying it all out. Once Gray is done, the company is ours.
He confesses to everything.
To everything.
Yeah.
And they even talk about her. The other guy says, what about the maid? Does she know anything? And Mark just laughs. He says, she's just a girl. She won't do anything.
Famous last words of every villain ever. Underestimating the person with the least amount of status in the room. It's classic class bias. He assumes she's unintelligent or powerless because she cleans floors for a living.
He equates her social standing with her capability, which is a fatal error.
A huge one.
But then snap! Lena steps on a twig or something. She makes a noise. Mark spins around. Who's there?
And she has to run.
She runs for her life. It's this tense chase sequence. She manages to get out of there, jumps in a taxi, and escapes. And where does she go?
Straight to the police station.
Right. And now this is a really important and realistic hurdle in the story. The police officer on duty is skeptical. He looks at her, this young woman who says she's a maid, and he basically says, you're just a maid. Why are you so sure about all this?
It's that same class bias all over again. Why should he believe her over a respected businessman like Mark Benson? But Lena insists. She uses her personal experience with Ethan as a character witness. She tells the cop, I know him. He's a good man. He's just broken.
She shows them the photos from her phone, the half-burned papers, the private transfer agreement. She tells them about the overheard conversation at the warehouse. And because she's so passionate and so persistent, they finally agree to investigate.
And when they do, the whole thing unravels. They find a secret bank account in Mark's name, and they find forensic evidence that the signatures on the documents used to arrest Ethan were forged.
The frame-up completely collapses. Mark is arrested at his office. Ethan is cleared of all charges. It seems like the end of the story, right? The happy ending.
It feels like it should be. Ethan comes home, he's free. But the narrative is smart. It tells us he feels unfinished. There's no sense of relief.
Yeah, the vibes are still off. Ethan is free, but he's not at peace. He's paranoid. And then his paranoia is validated. A rock comes crashing through the gate, and there's a note attached.
What does the note say?
You saved the wrong man. The real truth is still hidden.
Wow. So Mark wasn't working alone.
Not by a long shot. This creates this really interesting layer of paranoia. Mark is in jail, but clearly the corruption runs deeper. There are other people involved who are still out there.
And Ethan's reaction is probably to just lock the doors and hide. He's just been through the ringer. He probably wants to let it go out of fear of losing everything all over again.
That's exactly what he wants. But Lena, she's not done. She has caught the scent of the truth, and she is not letting go.
She goes back to the warehouse.
She goes back to the warehouse. The scene of the crime. This is what you'd call the false finish trope in a thriller, right? The hero thinks they've won, but nope, there's one last boss fight.
And this time, it gets physical. She sneaks into the warehouse and finds men. They're not talking. They're destroying files, shredding documents, burning ledgers. They're erasing the last remnants of the evidence that proves Ethan's total innocence and implicates the wider network.
And what does she do? She pulls out her phone and starts recording them. She needs proof that goes beyond just Mark Benson. She needs to expose the entire conspiracy.
But she gets caught.
She gets caught. One of the men sees the light from her phone. He chases her through the dark warehouse. It's a terrifying scene. He grabs her by her scarf and pulls her down.
This is a real physical threat now.
It is. He's screaming at her. You ruined everything. He's about to hurt her. And here is the moment of pure, unadulterated bravery. She doesn't scream for help. She fights back.
What does she do?
She grabs a loose wooden stick from the floor and just wails on him. She hits him, screaming back, "You ruined an innocent man's life."
I love that. She's fighting for Ethan's reputation while literally fighting off a thug in a warehouse.
That's incredible. She's a true hero.
And thankfully, just as she's fighting him off, sirens wail. The police arrive just in the nick of time, led by that same officer she convinced earlier. He must have put a watch on the place.
So they arrest the men, and they secure the documents. The proof.
The real proof. Yeah. These were files that prove the depth of the conspiracy, implicating board members, accountants, everyone. Lena didn't just save Ethan from jail, she saved his legacy. She saved the entire company from being gutted by these people.
The aftermath of this must be intense.
It is. It's really touching. Ethan meets her at the police station, and he's just in awe of her. He looks at her, and all he can say is, "You keep saving me, Lena." And the dynamic has completely irrevocably shifted. They aren't employer and employee anymore. They're not even just friends. They are partners who have survived a significant trauma together.
Absolutely. There's this lovely moment where they're leaving the station and she's a little shaky and he jokes, "I didn't know you were so brave." And she jokes back, "I didn't know you were so human."
And with that, the fear is gone. The silence of the mansion is finally, truly broken.
So things start to settle down into a new normal. Ethan goes back to work, reclaims his company, fires all the corrupt people, and the first thing he does, he pays off Lena's mother's medical bills in full.
Which, is the least he could do after she fought a guy in a warehouse for him.
Right. But it's still a grand gesture. And then he offers her a real job at the company. Not as an assistant, but as a manager of a new department focused on employee welfare.
That's fantastic. He recognizes her competence. It's a meritocratic promotion based on her loyalty, her intelligence, her integrity. He sees that she has skills far beyond cleaning.
And naturally, with all the danger past, the romance blossoms. They start having dinner together properly. Ethan confesses that Lena reminded him of who he really was before the grief consumed him. It's all looking like a perfect happily ever after.
But
yeah,
I sense there's one more twist.
There's one final, devastating twist. Just as they are finding real happiness, an anonymous letter arrives for Lena.
Oh, no.
And it says, "Your father didn't die in an accident. Ask Ethan about it."
Wow, that's a gut punch, a total gut punch.
It's awful. Lena confronts Ethan holding this letter, and Ethan, he doesn't deny it. His face just falls. He admits that Lena's father, Thomas Miller, worked for his company years ago, and that he died on the job.
And the worst part for Lena must be that Ethan knew this connection the whole time and hid it from her.
Exactly. He says, "I was afraid of losing you." But for Lena, that omission is a massive betrayal. She packs her bags. She feels like their whole relationship might have been built on a lie.
All those questions must be racing through her mind. Did he hire me out of guilt? Was this all just pity? Was he responsible for my father's death?
She thinks her father might have been a victim of Ethan's negligence or worse. But then the police, who are really on the ball in this story by the end, call her with the final piece of the puzzle. They've been going through the old files they recovered.
And what do they find?
They find that Lena's father wasn't a victim of Ethan. He was a hero. Years ago, he was an accountant who discovered Mark Benson's first attempt at fraud. He died trying to stop him, protecting Ethan's files. He was murdered, and it was covered up as an accident.
Oh.
So the father and the daughter were fighting the exact same battle years apart.
Precisely. There's a beautiful, tragic narrative symmetry. Lena's father tried to save the company and lost his life. Lena picked up that torch without even knowing it, finished the job, and saved the man her father died protecting.
That changes everything for Lena. She goes back to Ethan. And this is the part that really got me. Ethan reveals that for years he's been running a charity in secret. It's called the Thomas Miller Foundation, named after her dad.
No way.
Yes. It helps the families of workers who've been hurt or killed on the job. It's the ultimate act of atonement and respect. He has been honoring the men who died for him all this time.
So Lena forgives him. She realizes that Ethan wasn't the villain. He was just another person deeply hurt by Mark's greed. He kept the secret not to manipulate her, but because he was ashamed that he couldn't save her father back then.
So they end up together, for real this time. Ethan says he'll protect her forever, and Lena has the last line of the story. She says, "We both lost something, Ethan, but we found each other."
It brings the entire story full circle. It started with loss of money, loss of family, loss of self, and ends with them finding something new together.
So let's wrap this up. As we look back on this whole story, what do you think is the big takeaway here?
I think it's about the transition from a transaction to a true partnership. It started as a job money for labor. That's a transaction. But it became a relationship rooted in shared trauma and, more importantly, mutual rescue.
Mutual rescue. I like that.
Yeah, they both had to save each other. Ethan saved Lena from poverty and desperation. But Lena saved Ethan from prison, from despair, and from the ghost he had become.
And from a literal thug in a warehouse.
And from that, yes, we can't forget that.
It's a story that really challenges that cynical line Ethan said in the middle of it all. Truth doesn't protect you.
Right. At his lowest point, he was convinced that the truth was weak, that it was a liability. But in the end, it was only the truth, and Lena's relentless courage to hunt for it, no matter the cost, that saved them both.
So here's a final thought for you to chew on as you go about your day. When you're in a crisis, when your own house is silent and everything feels broken, is it better to just keep your head down and try to survive? Or do you light a match in the dark, like Lena did, and see what's really hiding in the shadows?
Because sometimes lighting that match is the only way you'll ever find the door.
Thanks for diving deep with us today. We'll catch you on the next one.